Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha-kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविता शाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलाम् आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् दक्षिणे लक्ष्मणो यस्य वामे च जनकात्मजाः पुरतो मारुतिर्यस्य तं वन्दे रघुनन्दनम्. Welcome back for our continued session on Sri Ramayana. We are in Sundara Kanda, and in that Sundara Kanda, we are looking through the eyes of Sri Hanumanji, as described by the words of Valmiki. And we are at a very critical juncture. Ravana has, in all wonderful varieties of ways, tried to entice Sita. Different categories, one about sensual enjoyment, one about love, one about being the queen of the entire Lanka, one being the primary personality among all the apsaras that he has as followers, being the queen of his heart, to be eating and enjoying music and traveling all over, giving gifts to her father, that he will bring the universe, gifts from the universe and offer to her father, etc., etc. And then some sense of warning that no human being or Rakshasa can enter this formidable Lanka, etc., etc. So just like Sri Hanumanji, we are also sitting, biting our nails as to what would Sita Devi do? Or what did she do? And Sundarakanda is full of beautiful poetry, and within the poetry there is so much meaning, and within the so much meaning the acharyas have a field day with their explanation. So today we're going to take help from a very great Sri Vaishnava Acharya called Periya Vachan Pillai. He was a 12th century Sri Vaishnava devotee and scholar, who apparently they say that you can even describe the glories of the Supreme Lord, but you cannot describe the glories of Periyavachan Pillai. Obviously, nobody can describe the glories of the Lord. It is to show the limitless extent of this great Acharya's glory, his scholarship, his devotion. I don't know much about his biography, and since we're doing Ramayana, I'm going to keep it very small as part of our praying and seeking his mercy. So he was born, they consider him to be an Amsha or a expansion of Sri Krishna. He was born on Janmashtami, midnight time, same nakshatra as Lord Sri Krishna, Rohini nakshatra. And he brought about such depth and both breadth and depth in the Sri Vaishnava teachings, especially when it comes to Ramayana. So the Ramayana has 24,000 verses, and he wrote much less, but whatever he wrote as his commentary, they are till date considered unique, and they stand on their own and become the guiding or the guidepost for all Ramayana speakers. And he has written on certain events of the Ramayana, not a verse by verse commentary. We heard some explanations previously. This one is a very critical one that we're going to hear, and the one that made him so famous throughout Sri Vaishnava tradition is his exposition on Vibhishana's, what we say, Sharanagati. When we come to that point, we will take help from Sri Periyavachan Pillai's teachings, most likely at that time. So there is one certain act of Sita Devi that he has explained in many, many ways, actually 24 ways for the meaning of one little act of Sita Devi. And that's what we're going to relish today. So, from a verse list perspective, we are not going to cover more than 3 verses. And technically, not even 3 verses, we're going to cover half, actually, a quarter of a shloka. On a quarter of a shloka is the entire discussion today. And that's the third verse of chapter 21. So 21 begins like this: Ravana has just spoken, and now Sita has to reply. Now, she doesn't have to reply, she's not obliged to reply. But the nature of very compassionate persons is that they act for the benefit of the person on the other side, the receiver. Now, for example, no acharya has to speak or write volumes of books. Prabhupada didn't have to do it. But they did it out of compassion. Vyasadeva did not have to compile, but he does it for all the Kali Yuga people, all the races, the different varieties, the species of human beings across the planet for the entire Kali Yuga duration. So did Prabhupada write. These acharyas, every one of them. Now, Sita Devi is considered the most compassionate personality, the internal potency of the Lord, and she's looking at Ravana and she can tell him, go to hell. Rather, she decides to teach him something, to help him out, so that his end is not so ghastly and so dreadful. So Valmiki begins the chapter with Tasya tad vachanam shrutva Sita raudrasya rakshasaha Arth deenaswaradinam pratyuvacha tatha shanai. Tasya tad vachanam shrutva. Having heard all those words of that fellow, remember, in the last chapter, Valmiki Rishi took our attention from Sita Devi and moved the camera towards Ravana. So there, Sita was referred to as Tasya, she, and the word given in second person was Ravana. In this chapter, Tasya, that word is from Ravana, and Sita is where he brings our attention to. So now we have to turn our attention to Sita Devi. Tad vachanam shrutva, having heard those words, Sita addressed this fellow. Who is he? Raudrasya Rakshasa. His words were full of Raudra, anger, and a way of, although speaking with love, there was full of threat. And what is Sita's condition? Artha, completely in distress. Deenaswara, and the voice that's coming out is full of sadness, pity, helplessness per se. Deenaswara, Deenam. But Pratyuvacha. Now, Uvacha means to speak or to explain. Pratyuvacha means to speak emphatically. That's one meaning. Prati also means opposite. So Pratyuvacha means she retorted with opposing words. She objected to what he said. And Shanaihi, slowly, gradually. Dukharta Rudati Sitaha. She was so distressed uh, from her sadness that Rudati, she was crying. Vepamanaha, her body was shivering. Tapaswini, she's a she's deep in tapasya, that she is completely absorbed in the thoughts of Sri Ramachandra. Chintayanti Vararoha, Vara Aroha, one who has very beautiful form. Chintayanti, Patim Iva Pativrata. And she's completely, as a Pativrata, her thoughts are completely in her husband. So she's thinking about Sri Ramachandra, but speaking to Ravana. In fact, anybody who speaks anything, and what to speak of words of scripture, Sita Devi is showing us that the mind is attached to or drawn to the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, whatever words come out, that is completely His special benediction on both the speaker and the audience. So, this is what she does. Trinam antaratah kritva pratyuvacha shuchismitaha nivartaya mano mattaha swajane kriyatam manaha. She tells Ravana that nivartaya manaha, change your mind. Okay, mattaha, from me. Swajane kriyatam, turn your mind towards your own wives. Instead of you thinking about me in your mind, you turn your mind to your own wives. So we're going to go through word by word next time on this verse. Today we're only going to talk about Trinam antaratah kritva. Trinam is blade of grass. Antaratah, between the two of them. Kritva, that's what she did. She plucked a blade of grass and placed between the two of them. So then the whole conversation about these commentators, especially Periyavachan Pillai, etc., why? What is the meaning of this act? Because every little act of Sita Devi or Ramachandra or these great personalities has so much depth. If we consider, let's say, an ordinary person's behavior on a day-to-day basis, there are hundreds of words, hundreds of actions that we commit that have absolutely no meaning. And to convey something, we use hundreds of words, hundreds of expressions, different actions, and not much is communicated. But for Sita Devi or our acharyas, a little action or a little act has so much depth. Plus, Valmiki is completely a Sita Devi and Ramachandra Bhakta. And part of being a Bhakta is to observe every little movement of one's body or words and take meaning out of it. So there are 24 meanings that Sri Periyavachan Pillai gives us. What I've done is put some titles to each of them so we can understand what categories these belong to. So we're focusing on Trinam Antaratah Kritva. So the first category of explanation for her behavior is hospitality. Now, she doesn't have to be hospitable to him at all, but she's a Kshatriyani. And Kshatriyas have this rule that even anybody, even if they are an enemy, if they were to visit them, if the enemy visits them, they should receive them with such hospitality that the enemy forgets all animosity. This is a Kshatriya code. So the first category of explanation is hospitality. And most of this comes from a sage called Apastambha. A very beautiful meaning how he got his name. In most cases, people refer to Apastambha Sutras. This sage was once invited for a gathering. And by the time he came, everybody was given a seat and they were serving prasadam. But he got a seat next to a person where he had to remain what we say in ISKCON, our favorite word, Shuchi. For example, if one has to worship the deity, just last night we were hearing someone would say, no, don't touch me because I have to go on the altar. Even among friends and devotees, we keep that, oh, don't touch me, I have to go on the altar. Now, there has to be some demarcation for that. The way this sage did is he took some water, apaha, and sprinkled it between him and that person, and that became stambha, like a pillar. And because he used that method, his name became Apastambha Rishi. So you can use water as a demarcator, in this case, Sita Devi. And we'll see how. So hospitality is a king. Ravana is still a king, although a nasty fellow. He has arrived where Sita Devi is. So Sita Devi's hospitality, she offered a blade of grass and said, please, it's a way of saying, please have a seat. There is a Apastamba Sutra that says, when a king arrives, asanam, annam, udakam, dheyam. A place to sit, something to eat, water to be offered for their thirst. That is part of the hospitality. So then what to do if a seat is not available to offer to a king? Then Apastamba says that you can offer a blade of grass as a place to sit. In fact, it is said that one should not sit on the bare floor. And if you don't have a mat to sit on, then minimally one kusha blade of grass can be kept and sat on it. And if nothing else is available, even a blade of grass is not available, then the ground. So since she is following proper sutras, proper etiquette, decorum, she offers him a blade of grass as a gesture of hospitality. Next one, formality. Sita, this is Periyavachan Pillai telling us that Sita Devi thought, if I offer a seat for Ravana and formally treat him formally with hospitalities like I would treat any stranger, it is easier for him to know that I don't have any feelings for him. And maybe he will mend his ways. He is speaking. What were the words he used for her? Priye, Manohare. And she is being very formal, which tells Ravana, stay back. Another reason is to put distance or separation between the two. Hanuman saw, and Valmiki told us that Ravana was approaching closer and closer. So he was coming very close to Sita Devi. And the phrase it says, Samipam, Samipam Upasankrantam. We heard in chapter 18. So between Sita Devi and Ravana, she has to place a partition so that he does not violate what we say in America, personal space, boundaries. When a person comes too close, we say, oh, that's too close. So before Ravana gets even closer, she places a blade of grass to create a partition between herself and Ravana so that he doesn't transgress that. Next is her chastity to Sri Ramachandra. We've heard this from Prabhupada, that a married woman shouldn't stare or talk with other men, and same for men, shouldn't necessarily dally with someone else's wife. So Sita Devi put a blade of grass so she can, if she has to say something, she will speak to the blade of grass instead of looking at this fellow and speaking to him directly. Fifth meaning, she is diminishing or in a very condescending way telling Ravana that you may look big, 20 hands, 10 heads, all the jewelry, the king of Lanka, but for me, you are nothing better than a blade of grass. So she says, hey, Ravana, you have people who are advising you not to do what you're doing. Previously, Akampana told you, please don't do it. Maricha told you, Ravana, the idea of kidnapping Sita is the worst idea I've ever heard. Because of your act, not only will you get killed, but your brothers, your relatives, Rakshas, in fact, the entire Lanka will get destroyed. Don't do it. He didn't hear. Malyavan, who's his uncle or father in law, also said to him, but he did not hear. So then Sita Devi apparently is saying, if this blade of grass can listen to what I have to say, hopefully you can also listen, because a man is like, or you, Ravana, are no better than a blade of grass who does not have any strength of your own. If you were man enough, you would have come when Ramachandra was there. What did you do? You're such a cheap coward that you came when Ramachandra is not there, Lakshmana is not there. Hmm? And you behaved so petty like. So she's comparing Ravana with a blade of grass. Now, yes, Vaishnavas, we all want to be compared to a blade of grass, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Trinadapi Shunichena. But this and that are not the same. She's not telling him you're humble. She's telling him you are no better than this useless piece of grass as far as I'm concerned. Um, Now, another reason apparently is she wants to let Ravana know that what she's about to speak to him, remember she's Pratyuvacha, is of very great importance. These are words that carry a lot of gravity. So Ravana should hear carefully. And we have 2 years. Ravana has 20 years. Hopefully he will hear it better. The Shastras describe Sita Devi or Lakshmi Devi as the person who, even with one glance, can set right anybody's life in such a way that they will feel great joy in their service and relationship to the Lord. That's why she always sits on his chest. Whether the Lord sees the person or not, she will always glance happily. So, Sita Devi is glancing at this blade of grass, and as a symbol, she is telling that this grass, which did not do any cruel deeds like Ravana, can become sentient just by her glance and can listen carefully. So Ravana, if I can make a completely non-sentient being like blade of grass to have full chetana and get good messages, what to speak of you? I'm happy to give my grace to you by which you will mend your ways. And naturally, the next is transformation. Sita Devi said, if this blade of grass can transform from inanimate to animate, then you, Ravana, can go from being a beast to a genuine, good human being or a Rakshasa with divine qualities. This is my power, and giving you a chance to correct yourself. Ravana didn't budge in any way. Another reason for placing a grass between the two of them is she's comparing Ravana to this blade of grass. Ravana, that this blade of grass is brainless. It doesn't have the power of sentience in it. It's not conscious. Similarly, you, although 10 heads, you are such a scholar. You're the grandson of Pulastya. You're the son of Vishrava and great grandson of Lord Brahma himself. But you're a fool number one. Hmm? Just the way the grass doesn't possess any intelligence, you also have absolutely no intelligence at all. Another meaning for the word antara, it is disregard for Ravana. That's the ninth category. Here, antara, one meaning means between, but antara also means within one's heart. So Trinam Antaratah Kritva means that she placed a blade of grass, but had some deep thoughts inside her heart. The blade of grass did not commit any mistake or any wrongdoing. So in her heart, she has regard for the blade of grass. And she's telling Ravana that I don't have even the regard that I have for this blade of grass upon you. I have more respect, I have more regard for this blade of grass than I have for you. Natva Trunam Trunatvam Manye. I don't even care. I don't even see you as an insignificant blade of grass. So she's telling Ravana, you are nothing. You may be thinking of yourself, I'm the greatest king. I have kidnapped this Apsara, that lady from here. I have all this thing. I got this from Kubera. No, has no value as far as I'm concerned. Now she's going to treat Ravana as some petty animal. The reason, what do you do when you see a cow? You pick up some grass and give it to eat, because an animal can only think about few things: ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha. So she's telling Ravana, here, have some grass to eat because you're worse than an animal. Huh? Ravana is acting without any intelligence. So she's telling him, okay, eat some grass. You're an animal. And she continues with that. So the 11th idea is also continuing with what I call fodder. Now she's giving him some fodder for his intelligence. She says, oh, Ravana, back in Aranyakanda, when Ravana was about to kidnap Sita Devi, she tells Ravana, the difference between you and my Sri Ramachandra is that Ramachandra is a lion. You're a fox. Have you ever seen a National Geographic or Animal Planet video? When a lion hunts a deer or a buffalo, he hunts his own and eats. But once he kills that animal, there are all these little ones, the hyenas, the foxes. They can't hunt, but they will come and grab little pieces because they can't do it on their own. She said, you are like a fox and he's like a lion, but you think you're equal. Oh, useless, wretched fellow. You are no better than a rabbit. Shashahastvam mrutha. She says, you're just like a rabbit. Hmm? It's coming up. She's going to admonish him in the next chapter, and we will hear the word she uses. So you're like a little rabbit. So here's some grass, eat it, and just be happy. Ravana promised all sorts of gifts to Sita Devi. She's telling Ravana that your gifts are inconsequential. I have no value for them. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one who is so absorbed in samadhi and the realization of their relationship with the Supreme Lord, for them, gold and pebbles have the same value. They don't look at gold and get too excited. They don't look at pebbles and get too excited. When we're walking on the street, we see some pebbles and stones. We don't get all excited. Oh, stones. Oh, pebbles. No. In fact, we continue walking. We don't pay any attention to it. Similarly, Ravana, whatever gifts you are enticing me with, as far as I'm concerned, they're like pebbles. What did he say? Amazing garlands, sandalwood, aguru, great collection of silks and robes and all sorts of jewelry that I've got from Devaloka will be yours. Vichitrani cha malyani chandanani agurani cha vividhani cha vasamsi divya ambarani cha, just previous chapter. And then he said, oh, Sita Devi, with the best charming eyebrows, you can enjoy the precious stones that I've got from Kubera. Sita put that blade of grass to tell him, all the riches you've promised for me are as insignificant as this blade of grass. Now she's going to tell him, what is the value of Kshatriya life? What are Kshatriyas meant for? They are courageous people. And they become kings because they want to protect their praja. Unlike modern warfare, the Prabhupada tells us, the old Kshatriyas would be on the front line and all their soldiers would be behind the kings. Unlike the modern generals, as Prabhupada says, sitting in some bunker somewhere, but all the soldiers are out there. So she says that I am holding on to my life with the aspiration that I'll be united with Sri Ramachandra one day. And if that's not going to happen, this Ekaveni, one braided hair, I'm going to use as a noose and go to Yamaraja's abode. And as far as a Kshatriya is concerned, they don't care for their life. It is meant to be given away in in service to their people. So this life that Ravana that you want to enjoy with me, I actually, as far as I'm concerned, my life has no value beyond it being like a blade of grass. Great queens from Rajasthan, when the Muslim kings were attacking Rajasthan and other areas, they would kill the kings, and then the idea was to take away all the queens and make them part of their harem. These queens very courageously entered fire and killed themselves because in their heart was, I would rather die than be with someone else. I have no value for any one of us. Life is very valuable. And Prabhupada says that you find that because we are Sat, we are eternally existent, eternal, we try in all sorts of ways to preserve life. That is what every living entity does, whether it is human being, devata, animal, bird, insect, even plant. Life preservation is one of the most vital intentions and actions. And for that, Sita is saying, for my life has no value without Ramachandra. It is worse than a blade of grass. Now she's going to mock Ravana. Sita said to Ravana that, you're enticing me with all these kingdom, riches, city, exuberance, extravagance, and all the enjoyment. But as far as I'm concerned, these all will fade away. In the Bhagavad Gita, we hear Krishna says to Arjuna, something that is eternal and has duration must be kept side by side with something that is not eternal, it's temporary and has no duration, and one should look at them and make a choice of what they want. And person who can make such a choice that I want that which is eternal, that which has endurance, that person is fit for liberation. So she's telling him, these all that you're talking about, Ravana, one day will go away. In fact, you will also go away. So she is mocking Ravana that Ravana, when Sri Ramachandra comes and destroys the entire Lanka, which will get reduced to nothing but some sand, here, take this blade of grass, use it to build your own house, a little humble, modest hut for yourself where you can live in it and for the rest of your life repent and live in regret for the stupid act that you are performing. Then there is this summary instruction. It's a principle that she's teaching. You see this blade of grass? Like anything in this world, it appears in this world in a small way and slowly it grows. Babies come small, but they become big. Animals come as small, they become big. Plants come with two leaves and they grow into massive trees. This blade of grass today seems like grass, tomorrow it will become a long, strong, sturdy creeper. In Sanskrit, apparently it's called Trunolapa Nyaya, like a blade of grass that becomes a vine. So she's telling him, Ravana, here's a very simple instruction for you. Get your mind towards your own queens. And with that, live in a simple dharmic way. Stay within the boundaries of dharma and be like that. Don't let your greed expand too much. That you have important activities like surrendering to Ramachandra. That's more important for you. So rather than let your desires grow one after the other, if you let one desire be fulfilled, it will grow to another. That will grow to another. That will branch out into so many more. Next meanings, the 16th meaning. Ravana may think this is for Ravana to have his hesitation eliminated. Ravana may hesitate that, oh, you know what? I kidnapped Ramachandra's wife. Now, today, if I have to go and become Ramachandra's friend, Ramachandra may say, your friend? Becoming your friend? Get lost. Not a chance. Go away. So he may hesitate to approach Sri Ramachandra. So this blade of grass is an example that she's showing that if you throw a blade of grass into, let's say, the sea or ocean, the waves will carry the blade back a little bit and then bring the blade back to the shore. So Ramachandra is like that you may think that he will not be gracious or merciful to you. No, Ravana, all your mistakes will be cast away back to the shore. Hmm? It's a way of saying that Ramachandra, who's the ocean of qualities, will kick that mistake out. Because that is Sri Ramachandra. What did the residents of Ayodhya say when uh, Dasharath Maharaj said, I want to crown Sri Ramachandra the Prince Regent? They all became excited and said, yes, yes. Why? Because Ramachandra has a quality. Na smaratam api apakaranam. Shatam api atmavattaya. Even if you commit 100 offenses towards Ramachandra, he does not remember any of them. Na smaratam. He doesn't recollect them. But if you commit one act of service, that he will never forget. Hundreds of offenses he will not remember. One service he will not forget. Then she gives him good advice. She says, by plucking this blade of grass, she says, oh Ravana, just like I have plucked this blade of grass from the ground, you too pluck all your evil characteristics, your evil thoughts, such as this ego that I'm the enjoyer, this anger, this sense of competition with the Lord from your heart, and simply surrender to Sri Ramachandra. She's trying to teach him humility in the next point. She says that Ravana, all of these enjoyments, this everything is going to end in useless fighting and your death anyway. Even now, you have the opportunity, like this blade of grass, become humble in front of Sri Ramachandra. So that Trinadapi Suniche. With that, you will be able to Kirtaniya Sadahari. That's important for you. Now, she's by another meaning Periyabachan Pillai gives us is she's invoking the presence of Sri Ramachandra. Sri Ramachandra is omnipresent. He's everywhere. Prahlad Maharaj, when challenging Hiranyakashipu, said Hiranyakashipu asked him, where is your Lord? Is he here? Is he there? Is he in this pillar? And Prahlad Maharaj said, yes, he's omnipresent. If he is in the spiritual world, he's in here, he's there, he's definitely in this pillar too. Similarly, Ramachandra is in this blade of grass as well. Just as Narasimhadev appeared from a pillar, Ramachandra can appear out of this blade of grass and tear your heart. Next, she's making a vow. Sometimes people make a vow by throwing a blade of grass, sprinkling water, or throwing sand and making it's called Diksha, they make a promise. So Sita Devi, by placing this blade of grass, is making a vow. Just the way the sun can completely evaporate large bodies of water. Similarly, Sri Ramachandra, who's the son of all sons, SUN, son of all sons, can from your body take away your life completely and evaporate it just by a simple act. In this chapter, verse 83, she's going to tell him that. Then she's giving him a warning. Oh, Ravana, because the word kritva can also mean to pinch. So, by pinching a blade of grass, Sita is signaling to Ravana, just the way I can pinch this blade of grass from the ground, Sri Ramachandra will pinch your heads off and rescue me. So, beware. Beware if you step forward even more once more. If you step forward even one more time. Then she's giving him another warning with consequences, very dire consequences. Because in the Shastras, apparently, it says that one should not put especially a Brahmana, one should not put any living entity in distress. Especially a Brahmana, one should not put into distress because there are dire consequences. And Periyavachan Pillai gives this example. In other Puranas, it's not there in Srimad Bhagavatam. The story of Bali Maharaj offering to Vamana, the story continues with other details. When Bali Maharaj decided that I will offer everything to Vamana Dev, Shukracharya told him, don't do it. You thinking he is a dwarf with very not sturdy, stodgy legs, and he won't be able to cover 3 paces of land enough. But this is Vishnu. He's very tricky. Don't do it. And Bali Maharaj said, no, I said I will do it and I will keep up my promise. And so he has to pour water into Vamana Dev's hands. So Shukracharya became a tiny insect or a bee and went to cover the spout of uh, Bali Maharaja's Kamandalu. Vamana Dev knew that Shukracharya is interfering in Bali Maharaja's surrender. So he took a blade of straw and through that Kamandalu spout pricked Shukracharya's eye with this little darbha or grass. So Shukracharya interfered in the respect of Vamana, who came as a Brahmana. Shukracharya himself is a great Brahmana. So by plucking a blade of grass, Sita Devi is reminding uh, Ravana that this blade of grass can blind you completely. That it has the potency. Oh Ravana, you told me, oh, I have the face of a moon and all that. And whichever body part I'm staring at, oh, I cannot move my eye from that limb to another limb at all. Remember, with this blade of grass, I can pluck all your eyes out. Then she gives him another warning. One piece of blade of grass you may think has no power, but Sri Ramachandra has infused the blade of grass with Brahmastra. Although we hear this episode in Sundara Kanda, it happened in Aranyakanda. And we have not heard it. She's going to narrate it to Hanuman, but it already happened. So she's thinking, just the way Sri Ramachandra infused this blade of grass with Brahmastra for that crow, I can also infuse the great Brahmastra and finish you off completely. So don't mess with me. And that's why she put the blade of grass to warn Ram. We've seen even Lord Balaram, he picked a blade of grass and struck Romaharshana with it. And that became a great weapon. So with Ramachandra's or the Supreme Lord's power, a great weapon can become ineffective. that the Brahmastra was released by Ashwatthama, it had no effect on the Pandavas, it had no effect on Parikshit Maharaj. On the other hand, a blade of grass can be more powerful than Brahmastra. Rakhe Krishna, Mare Ke. Mare Krishna, Rakhe Ke. Then she gives him one more warning. When the Supreme Lord appeared as Nara and Narayana Rishis, they used nothing but a blade of grass to kill this great demon by the name Dambhotavan. Similarly, I can kill you with this blade of grass, Ravana. Now she wants to induce fear into Ravana. Now Ravana is fearless. He doesn't think there is anyone who can challenge him. So he's fearless. He's stupidly fearless. So she wants to induce some fear into Ravana. She's going to tell him that her chastity is so powerful that it can burn the entire Lanka away. The only reason she's not doing it because Ramachandra has not approved of it. So she says that Natvam Kurmi Dashagrivaha Bhasma Bhasmarha Tejasa. Bhasmarha, you are fit to become ash. But I have not received Ramachandra's permission to do so. Yet, here is a blade of grass, and I can burn this blade of grass just by my vision, and it will tell you how powerful I am. Now, because she's given him that warning, she's hinting to him what her supreme power is. The word krutva also, as we heard, means to pinch. It also means to pinch by tearing something in half. Lord Rama in the Yuddha Kanda will tell all the devotees, Vibhishana, Sugriva, Hanuman, all the millions and millions and millions of monkeys, that actually I don't need any of your help. Simply by the tip of my nail of my small, my pinky, I can finish off Ravana, Lanka, Rakshasas, in fact, this entire universe. I can just end with the tip of my pinky. Even as Lord Narasimhadev, Hiranyakashipu was killed merely by the nails. So Sita Devi is saying to Ravana, just my nails are enough to pinch all your heads off. This is all simply by the meaning of the word Trinam Antaratah Kritva. I haven't even gone to the meaning of Pratyuvacha, etc. So we're going to stop here and see if there are any comments, thoughts, reflections. You want to say anything in the glory of Periyabachan Pillai, please. It's open. Amazing, huh? How many meanings he can extract just from one small act. Any comments, thoughts? Anything here? You like the background?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, very much, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So amazing to hear all this. This is Radha Dasi. Prabhu, I have a question. So we are hearing like how Mother Sita was in so much distress, and she's like such a gentle and delicate lady, but at the same time she's a Kshatrani, and she has this kind of fearlessness, and at the same time she has compassion. So it's kind of like all these very seeming contradictory qualities. It's like hard to understand like what she is feeling, how she is feeling, and all these different extreme like feelings that she's showing.
Yeah.
Can you please comment on that? Thank you.
In Gita Nagari, when I spoke, I said that think of a diamond. It's one diamond, but it has so many facets. And the more facets, the more shiny the diamond gets. Imagine having a diamond that had only one face or one facet. Light won't shine as well. But a diamond looks beautiful when you take it and move it like this, and different facets shine light. Then becomes very sparkling. And diamonds are always enjoyed on a blue or a black velvet cloth. So the idea is that the actual shine or the glory of a devotee has to be seen on the backdrop of adversity. The darker the background, the brighter the diamond shines. So adversity or the dark background is the one that is required for a person's qualities to manifest. And Sita Devi, like a diamond, has so many facets, all of them shining one after the other. That's how we see it. It cannot be one dimensional ever. No great person has only one dimension. She's a kshatrani. She can burn him, but she doesn't. She's teaching him. She's warning him. She's speaking to him with compassion that he will mend his ways, etc., etc. Very, very complex and deep personality, and therefore not easily understood. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita has a phrase, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Na Bhujiya. It's not easy to understand the Kriya, the actions, or Mudra, the gestures of great Vaishnavas.
Thank you, Prabhu.
There's something here. They may not be able to hear you. Want to get closer? Okay.
So I was just thinking that there is this beautiful contrast through this of Sita Devi's personality and Ravana's personality. Ravana is also a very learned person, and yet because he had pride, he flaunted his what he was good at, and that kind of blinded him. And even good advice, was never taken, which led to his destruction. Whereas Sita Devi, throughout, most of the time, she's in the background. She's this chaste, humble, shy personality, but she herself is quite knowledgeable. And when the time came, she spoke up. So I feel that a person who is actually genuinely situated in humility and is really well read or knowledgeable, that person doesn't usually flaunt. I was just thinking how people who are shallow, they have this need to flaunt, whereas a person who is something very deep and grounded, then there's no need for them to, only when required, they open their mouth. I was appreciating contrast between
Yes. Yeah. Good point. Good point. There's a text. Is there any explanation on how Ravana took it or understood the act of Sita placing the blade of grass? No, the guy is 10 heads but dull like anything. He is only enamored by his attraction to Sita Devi. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Krishna says, Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Apaharata Chetasam Samadhavna Vidhiyate. One cannot enter into samadhi or getting the mind focused on anything because they are prasaktanam, they're attached to bhoga and aishwarya, and their mind is completely apaharata, it's been stolen. Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhavna vidhiyate. They cannot become resolute in their intentions. Similarly, he's dull-headed. He won't get it. Although he comes from a very amazing family, but sense gratification puts such a strong covering that good messages cannot get through. Our spiritual master calls it the bean in the ear. When one is attached to an idea, doesn't matter how much good advice comes to them, they have a bean in the ear. They will not listen to it. Anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead.
This recollection.
Keep going. Ask your question.
I was just appreciating how nicely Valmiki describes the situation. There's both the verbal and non-verbal piece of the communication that's there, and even for the verbal piece of the communication, because the tone and the way someone speaks has a different meaning to the same words. So he explains how she's speaking, what's going on with her. She's shivering and all those things. That was really beautiful. The question I had was in Sikshashtaka, we read that the blade of grass was signifying humility. In any of these 26 explanations, does that come into picture?
Yeah. Humility is eighteenth meaning. Is telling Ravana, if you become humble in front of Ramachandra, all of your mistakes, including this one, will be forgiven. So just mend your ways, Ram. Become humble.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Someone's hand is raised.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This is Telegram Das. Please accept some humble blessings. Always Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Prabhuji, thank you very much for sharing these steps of Ramayana. One question which comes to me is, on one hand, we have this wonderful Vaishnava giving all these varied meanings of one action of Sita Devi. And on the other hand, we also hear that one should not speculate, take things as it is. So I'm trying to understand, where is the line? I mean, how do you identify speculation versus an offering of devotion?
Great question. We have acharyas who will give us meanings, like our own Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will tell us what Krishna is thinking. Then he will tell us what Arjuna is thinking. Then he will tell us what Krishna is thinking as a counter argument for what Arjuna is thinking. However, for Valmiki and all these great acharyas, it's called revelation. And if you notice that all of these items that Periyavachan Pillai is given us, since we're in this context, they're all backed up by Shastric evidences. But his imagination, the Lord has given him to stretch it in a way that makes completely Siddhantic, philosophical, and of course rasa meanings. Speculation means a person without the scriptural depth or knowledge imagines and does say certain things. There's no substance behind it, or not enough substance behind it. So what is important is the substance. It comes in a Guru Parampara, and whatever they have said has to be accepted by the broader Vaishnava community. If it is not accepted, then it is not considered. Just like even in this world, in the scientific community, just because somebody wants to publish a paper, it's not to be published until or unless there is a peer review. And others will look at it and say, whoa, this is just some stuff you came up with by smoking some interesting stuff or drinking some interesting beverages. This has to be scientifically solid. Similarly, the other Vaishnavas, the Supreme Lord, they all have to say, yeah, this is solid. Then it becomes then it has its place in devotion. It has its place in the gathering of scriptures. So there's substance that's necessary, and that substance is what is the verse from Sheta Shvatara Upanishad? Yasya, that everything is revealed. One who has implicit faith in one's spiritual master.
Yasya dere para bhaktir.
Tatha deve
Katadara.
tasyete kathitahi arthan prakashante mahatma. Prakashante, it is revealed. So for Periyavachan Pillai, it's revealed. It's revealed for the world of Vaishnavas to look at. Speculation, on the other hand, may not be revealed. It's manufactured in the factory of limited knowledge and intelligence. It's hard. It's hard to find that line. But it comes from revelation. The Lord has to reveal. And for revelation to come, one has to have the right orientation. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam. And for when one's orientation is in a particular way, accordingly the Lord will fuel that knowledge. If the orientation is in a different way, He will fuel a different type of knowledge. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajami.
Also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the time that he exposed those kinds of speculators,
Right.
where the behavior is not consistent with the realizations.
Himangi is saying Bhaktivinoda Thakur also exposed these kind of speculators whose behavior, activities was not consistent with the kind of realizations. That's another good point. That's visible for everybody. Okay, Shaligram Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
All right, anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This, every class is a gem. This one was very exciting because I was, you started off saying are there like 24 meanings?
Yes.
22, 24. So I was thinking, oh yeah, okay, this is nice. And then what's next? You kept adding to the mystery and it was beautiful. Listening to lectures on Shikshashtakam, the blade of grass has one dimension and this one has 24 dimensions. It was very exciting. And I especially like the one where, he told the story of Bali Maharaj and him taking a grass. I don't know, for some reason it was, very exciting class. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If anything, I'm just repeating words in English of some great personality, Periyavachan Pillai, and whatever I've read is from Shamakund's work of whatever effort he has put in. So I'm just repeating, but it's very exciting. It was exciting when I first heard it. It's exciting when I was preparing for it, and even more exciting when just reading through and narrating it. It was very fascinating. What a personality Sita Devi is. Sitting there, wearing tattered robes full of dust, her body colored in dust, crying like anything, emaciated, Ekaveni, and then she comes out with something so fascinating for Ravana that the fool cannot understand. Okay. All right, we'll end here. Thank you very much. Until we meet again. Until then, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ji ki jai. Shri Periyavachan Pillai ki jai.